Do we want minimalist, lean, or the least amount of research we can do? Low-effort research sounds like a time and money saver, but can be speed over quality. Think critically about any methods or approaches aimed at doing lightning-fast research or the least amount of research possible. In many cases, these approaches not only recommend reducing the time or scope of our research, but they typically also recommend that non-researchers execute specialized research tasks. If your company insists on these types of approaches, we should be adding the following to our risk documentation. We had non-specialists do specialized tasks. We knew the best research methods to select based on the open questions and the project, but we selected other methods. We understood the correct number of people to recruit, but we chose fewer people. We knew who our target audiences are, but we chose people from another population. We knew that proper documentation of the entire research project was the right way to set up multiple departments in our company for success, but we chose to create minimal documentation or skip essential artifacts. There are times when the cheapest and fastest supermarket brand microwave pizza will make a good enough meal. You could eat pizza napoletana, handmade by experts using the best imported ingredients, or local ingredients if you are in Napoli, Italy. We might not understand how low quality the microwave pizza is until we've taken a pizza eating tour of Napoli. Figure 25. Photos of Naples-style pizza from Italy, so fluffy and delicious, perfection in every bite. And a supermarket brand microwave pepperoni pizza. Factory-made, mystery meat, cheese in air quotes, speed over quality, eat at your own risk. It's common to hear, the stakeholder wants something fast and anything will be better than what we currently have. We understand the desire to have knowledge and data quickly. Still, we should think critically about the assumptions that any research is good research, or that any PSE changes we can create from our super-fast research will be better than our current PSE. It only takes one example to disprove this. Can you remember being stuck with a new version of PSE that was absolutely a downgrade? They removed features you needed, added features you didn't, or made something harder to use. In extreme cases, can you think of a time a company rolled back these changes and had to return to the previous version of its PSE? Quote, "The importance of research isn't in the frequency, it's in the depth and quality of the study and synthesizing the information you have, quantitative, qualitative, observational, and contextual, to deeply understand and make informed design decisions. We know that the volume of research doesn't get you to that point, only depth." End quote. Oveta Sampson. If research sometimes takes weeks or months, why do innovation agencies and research in a sprint approaches only need days? They are doing minimum viable research, are choosing the fastest methods over the best methods, or they have multiple researchers working on getting more done in less time. Here's how you can cut research phases down to the fastest they could go should you desire speed over quality. 1. Use short cycles of evaluative research such as usability testing. Planning, recruiting, conducting, and analyzing exploratory, discovery, and other generative research thoroughly and well would be nearly impossible in short periods of time. Generative research requires quality over speed. However, some evaluative research like unmoderated usability testing can be completed quickly, sometimes in days. Therefore, many research agencies or teams offering rolling research or research in a week are usually evaluating concepts and existing PSE. You can do this, but it's no replacement for the customer intelligence we need to extract from generative qualitative research. 2. Always use the same methods and templates. We always run a survey and then interview 8 people. This would create a reliable and time-boxed research unit. 3. Avoid methods that tend to take longer. Running a survey is faster than conducting observational research. Asking people their task steps is faster than watching them perform the task or conducting a diary study. 4. Include fewer than the recommended number of study participants. 5. Recruit from an existing database, often your current customers. This shortens the time spent finding a more varied population that might include target audiences who are not your customers. 6. Short sessions. Perhaps 20 to 30 minutes instead of 60 minutes or longer. Fewer hours of session recordings require less time later to rewatch and analyze. 7. Don't rewatch session recordings at all. Run with the notes taken while the sessions were conducted and jump straight to final artifacts and conclusions. End of list. These approaches can be fast, and we could call them research, but we must consider the risks of prioritizing research speed over the insights and knowledge we could obtain when allowed more time. We might not have collected significant and unbiased evidence that pushes us in the right direction and toward customer centricity. Figure 26. Screenshot of a project plan, explained below. There are many risks caused by the Grand Canyon between what agency salespeople and account managers propose to clients and what is good CX. This also happens at our corporate jobs when someone outside CX guesses how long CX needs without understanding the time it takes to do CX well. The above screenshot is from an agency. This plan will burn workers out while lowering the quality of the work. Problems include: 1. Week 1 includes stakeholder interviews, but no time was included to plan, recruit, or schedule those interviews. The project appears to start with unplanned interviews. 2. 30 interviews are scheduled per week when most people only have the energy to do a maximum of 15 interviews per week. 30 interviews in a week can be done humanely if you have multiple researchers moderating sessions, but that's not clear from this plan. This schedule would badly overwork one researcher. 3. After 70 interviews, this plan has no time dedicated to analyzing them. Watching videos of 70 interviews, reading transcripts, taking more notes, finding patterns and themes, finding insights and opportunities, etc., can take weeks to do well. This plan doesn't care about that, going straight into artifacts and final documentation of research findings. 4. There are 2 weeks allotted to documenting insights and creating personas, empathy maps, pain points, and an ecosystem map. It's wildly rushed unless there are multiple researchers sharing the work. Some teams bring in visual designers to polish the look of maps and artifacts, but this is absent from the above plan. 5. The optimized desired future state informs designers, so the order of tasks matters. This agency's plan shows design work while the desired future state is still being decided. The team works on design round 2 while mapping the desired future journey that is still to be designed. What? This project needs a time machine. End of list. This is a terrible plan for all involved, including the client who might not be happy with the quality of work or the outcomes. In contrast, here are 2 research plans from my company. Note that as consultants, we often get more time than corporations like to give their internal teams. But corporate teams should get the time they estimate and request. If you would pay an agency to put 2 researchers on a project for 8 weeks, consider why you are hesitant to create an internal research team of 2 and give them the same 8 weeks. Figure 27. A shorter generative research project for a startup. We estimated 2 people working 160 hours over 24 working days, roughly 5 weeks. I use a custom Monday.com board for our plans. Figure 28. A larger research project. 3 people, plus a 4th added for just the analysis task, will work an estimated 388 hours over 54 workdays, roughly 10 weeks. One key difference between the above 2 plans is the length of the sessions, which will impact the time required for analysis and synthesis. For the shorter plan, we cut time by deciding to not rewatch our recordings and only use the notes we took live and right after sessions. Recruiting and scheduling require less time in the larger plan because we primarily recruited people from the client's website, plus some non-customers. The shorter project cut early voice of the customer and metrics reviews and has fewer artifacts. We did not create personas, task analysis, or an optimized task flow. We must expect exploratory, discovery, and other generative studies to require multiple weeks, if not months. Exploration and discovery are words we use around longer adventures when we are looking for depth and meaning. These should not be boiled down to the fastest or shortest research that might be good enough. Can longer research be agile? Let's return to our definition of agile, a method of project management used especially for software development that is characterized by the division of tasks into short phases of work and frequent reassessment and adaptation of plans. The answer is absolutely yes. Research work has clearly defined phases that can be planned, subdivided, and estimated. CX researchers should reconsider their plans if something learned along the way inspires a shift. Great research work can be done in less time, but you must change project allocation. We can better balance research quality, desired outcomes, and timeframes if we add more qualified researchers to the team. Can we have unqualified or less skilled people do research? We touched on that earlier, and will address it further in this chapter. A researcher from my online community shared this story with me. Quote, "Remember when I told you marketing is the same in my current company as the last one, that they don't use research? Because they made a whole mess with our website, our PO pushed them to work with research for a website redesign. I've been so cautious with them because I saw this as an opportunity to build trust with them. I tried so hard to not sound know-it-all and not judge them for not knowing anything about research. I suggested starting with stakeholder interviews and didn't mention anything about user research because I knew, considering the time it would take, they'd say no. But I killed it with stakeholder interviews. I brought so much valuable organized data for them. Everybody on the marketing team was complimenting me and my work after the meeting. They were so shocked. They were like, 'We never did anything like this before. It's amazing how much work you put into this.' Because they started trusting me, when I brought up actual client interviews, even though my anticipated timeline was 4 to 5 weeks, they were all like, 'If that's what you recommend, go ahead. Let's do it correctly this time.'" End quote. Is CX a skill that anybody can have? There are some perspectives around tasks and roles that can lead to research and design mistakes. Many agile coaches, scrum masters, and others, especially in tech, say that CX or UX is not a job, role, or specialty. They often say that UX is a skill that anybody can have. They usually agree that you need this skill on the agile or product team. But if it's just a skill and anybody can have that skill or do those activities, then we might not need CX, UX, or specialists. This is reflected in statements like, UX work is easy, anybody can make wireframes, or anybody can do research because it's just talking to people. A variation is to believe that the CX tool or software is the skill or work. For example, a belief that anyone who knows how to use Figma or Axure well must be a good CX designer or well qualified to do design work. Would we say that anybody proficient with Jira or GitHub must be a good programmer or qualified for a developer job? Additionally, time with a tool does not mean proficiency with the skills that the job requires. I have been using Adobe Photoshop since 1994, but I'm a mediocre visual designer on a good day. When job applications ask me how many years I have used Adobe Photoshop, it's the wrong question. In mid-2022, I was interviewed on an Agile podcast. Weblink cxcc.to/A127, and UX is a skill came up. I asked the hosts, if UX is a skill, can you please tell me what that skill is? They started naming standard CX documents and artifacts, including journey maps, personas, prototypes, and screens. While it is correct that those are documents that CX researchers and architects create, these are technically not skills. They are outputs and documentation of the execution of skills. As an example, prototyping is the tangible output of skills and proficiencies including information architecture and interaction design, studies of human behavior and cognitive psychology, problem finding and solving, critical thinking, deductive reasoning and logic, and being able to put your ego and preferences aside so that you are designing for the target audience and their needs, no matter what you like or prefer. The execution of those skills is tangibly seen in sketches, wireframes, or a prototype. Executing these skills poorly might still result in a wireframe or prototype, but that doesn't mean that we have a good idea, concept, or design. Therefore, the prototype is not the skill, since even people without design skills could create a functioning prototype. Creating the wireframe or prototype doesn't guarantee that they have done good design work, solved the right problem, or created intuitive PSE. As another example, some of the skills involved in CX research include most of what was listed above for the prototype, planning the research, choosing the best methods, planning the correct questions and the tasks we should observe, choosing the right quantity and types of participants, executing sessions with neutrality and a good interviewing style, observing and noticing things others miss, being a mini detective, analyzing the data, bringing it together to report on insights, pain points, and opportunities, and delivering actionable suggestions around pain points, opportunities, strategy, and direction. Someone who lacks one or more of these skills could still do research, but the research is unfortunately likely to be a junk science study with flawed results. You can talk to users, but that doesn't mean that you did research well and set the team and project in the right direction. It's also why creating a customer journey map is about so much more than did we end up with a document called a customer journey map? Which skills, techniques, or methods were used in making that customer journey map? Customer journey maps start with research and require deep strategic, problem-solving, and other skills. If these skills were not correctly utilized in making the map, you would have a map, but the map might be garbage. Democratizing CX tasks. Customer intelligence and how we obtain those insights and data are core to improving satisfaction and loyalty. Therefore, who does the research work and how it's done will also be key. Democratization is a complex topic with people fiercely for and against it, so we need to go through it in detail with our critical thinking hats on. And if we try such a democratization experiment, we must ensure that we have proper success criteria, standards, and governance, which I detail at the end of the chapter. The most common definition of democratization is where anybody at your company can do a particular domain's work, often regardless of their training, experience, abilities, proficiency, or knowledge. For example, democratization assumes that anybody at any skill level can do research or design work now or after some short training. Some who believe in democratizing CX work want to see the work of non-CX teammates strictly overseen and reviewed for quality so that poor work is not utilized. Some who believe in democratization would prefer to save time by not reviewing this work, instead assuming that the work and outcomes will be good enough. The pro-democratization movement tends to come from these sources. 1. Trainers and online courses who make money from attempting to upskill your staff. There's no money to be made in, "Hello, we cannot train your staff to do this work. It takes years to be good at this stuff." Occasionally, a trainer appears to be selling democratization, but instead does minimal upskilling and tries to teach that CX work really is specialized. Trojan horse tactic! Typically, the pro-democratization voices and articles come with sales pitches for corporate training, online workshops, and video courses. 2. Software and tools that will make more money when you utilize their system more or need more licenses. The more research you do with their tool, the more money they make. 3. Workers in non-CX domains who would like to do CX or UX work, but it's not part of their job role. This causes some people to blur job role lines, sometimes even claiming that their job should require CX or UX skills. Knowingly overlapping your role's boundaries into another role is likely to cause power struggles, morale issues, and conflict. 4. People who don't understand CX work, its specialization, or its importance. Every worker should understand what their teammates do. 5. Managers of CX or UX teams or departments who are having trouble getting the budget and headcount they need. They don't want to democratize, but they have no idea how the work will get done unless they start handing tasks out to random teammates. 6. Newbies lacking confidence. If you are new to CX work and concerned that you are an imposter or bad at your job, having everybody do your job with you can be one way to avoid scrutiny, responsibility, and accountability. 7. Pseudo-thought leaders hoping for social media engagement. Polarizing online debates can win you likes, follows, and revenue. End of list. Democratization is a sign that you have a bottleneck in a specialty. You need to hire more specialists, not just any breathing human with some spare time. Those who are pro-democratization would say that it solves the bottleneck and more CX tasks will get done. That's usually the main benefit. Does it outweigh potential risks and consequences? Why might democratizing or anybody can do CX tasks be a poor approach? 1. What job exists at our company where the quality of their work, outputs, and outcomes doesn't matter? If we care about the quality of CX work, then we want CX tasks done well and correctly by qualified CX professionals. 2. Which other domains will also democratize their work? The cries for democratization are nearly always for CX or UX, but any domain could allow anybody to do their tasks. Product managers are not training and upskilling others to do product management work. Nobody demands that engineering democratize and let everybody do their tasks regardless of skill or work quality. If you want to take on tasks from outside of your domain, expect to help others take on tasks in your domain. Quote, "My new approach is to let people do research and wait for it to fail so they come for help. This is usually at the research planning phase. I'm also demanding to be coached on product management in return for teaching people how to do research. Anytime I ask them to teach me some PM stuff, they start arguing how complex it is and whether I can do it as a researcher. I can, by the way." End quote. UX researcher in my community. 3. What is the ROI of having anybody or everybody do research or design work? We will make decisions and create PSE based on the data we have. If that data misleads us, we will find these mistakes much later, probably when customers tell us we suck. We must monitor all of this and then estimate or calculate the ROI of having any research done versus the ROI of quality research. 4. When mission-critical tasks are in danger of not getting done because of headcount or bottlenecks, we prefer to get the budget to hire a qualified person for that role. Few specialists in any department would prefer to train someone from outside that department over hiring a qualified person who can hit the ground running. 5. If we're struggling with a bottleneck, the last thing we want to do is stop specialists' mission-critical work to try to teach newbies to do some mission-critical work. Already overworked practitioners will be taken away from their work to train or oversee the teammates who are learning. How much time does the overworked CX team spend reviewing, fixing, or reworking poor work? This is adding to CX's burden, not relieving it. 6. You're asking someone to learn some or all of a specialized full-time job. Becoming proficient at CX work isn't like quick Excel pivot table training. Some CX professionals have master's degrees or PhDs in psychology, sociology, human factors, or HCD. 7. We're assuming the happy outcome that everybody ends up great at CX work. If the person learning is doing poor work, do we keep that work? Scrap it? Ban that person from future CX work? Allow them to continue doing those tasks? How much risk and waste are we willing to accept? 8. Consider efficiency. Experienced specialists will be better at strategy and tactics than any newbie guessing at CX work. CX efficiency decreases when lightly trained or untrained newbies are guessing at CX work. Efficiency decreases when specialists' already overbooked time is split between doing the work and running an improvised mini CX school. 9. Did we ask CX leaders what they need so that we can best support them? We appear to know that we are short-staffed in CX or UX. Ask a CX manager, director, head, or VP what they would like to do about CX being spread too thin, overworked, and understaffed. Few are likely to declare, "Grab some product managers and have them do our work," as their first choice. They would want permission and the budget to grow their department and relieve the bottleneck by hiring qualified professionals. Empower and support CX by asking leaders what they need and then giving them what they need. 10. If anybody can do CX work, we wouldn't bother with job descriptions, interviews, and standards. We wouldn't turn anybody down for a CX or UX job. If teammates from product, engineering, marketing, or business analysis were typically great at CX work, we wouldn't even open CX jobs. We wouldn't need specialized professionals if most people trying CX work were doing it well. Your company puts CX candidates through multiple interviews, reviews of their past work, and possibly even an exercise to scrutinize how they do their work. If this is how we check if someone is qualified to do CX work, then we must check internal teammates and hold them to these same standards for knowledge, skill, and proficiency. CX tasks shouldn't be given to anybody who wouldn't be good enough at them to qualify for a CX job here. Many companies have inexplicably closed the door to entry-level CX candidates, changing junior-level jobs to requiring 2 or more years of previous work experience. Yet, we are okay with non-CX teammates with 0 years of experience doing CX work. Open entry-level CX jobs. If we train anybody, it should be the people with foundational CX education who plan to have a CX career. Everybody doing CX tasks should be in the CX department with a CX manager. They should be held to work standards and subject to work reviews. End of list. Before democratization came to mean what it does now, it originally referred to sharing research knowledge and ensuring that everybody on the team and beyond had deep customer knowledge. It was about breaking down silos between CX and others. I would call knowledge sharing and active socialization collaboration. Democratization is a positively framed word chosen to make people against it look strange. Who wouldn't want a democracy? In a democracy, everybody can vote. We assume those votes count, but few govern. Domains like product management and engineering aren't democracies. Nobody votes. We collaborate where it makes sense, and very few govern. CX should be no different. Democratization is a euphemism and the wrong word. The correct word is dilution. We want more fruit juice, but we don't have more fruit juice, so we add some water, milk, and olive oil that we happen to have. We could still call this fruit juice and hope it tastes good enough. But if this juice were an ingredient in a larger recipe, that recipe might not come out well. When you understand the value of a specialty, you respect and grow that specialty. When you don't understand this specialty, it's easy to dilute it, even by accident, because you don't understand what would dilute it and what would support it. 2 common questions during my weekly Office Hours Ask Me Anything YouTube live streams are from researchers who are told to democratize research and train non-researchers. Their questions are, how do I stop this from happening? And should I quit this job? That's what your staff or coworkers may be thinking. Are you forcing an approach on people who don't want or agree with the approach? An interesting angle on this matter comes from a UX leader who posted the following on LinkedIn, edited for brevity and anonymity. Quote, "The worst mistake I have ever made in my career? Hiring someone who was simply unable to do the job. Some time ago, I made the mistake of hiring a designer who didn't quite fit what we needed on our team, but was ambitious and curious. Within a short time, it became apparent the designer wasn't as skilled as what was needed at the company. They could talk the talk, but not walk the walk regarding fundamental design tasks. I worked with the designer as best as possible, making them my single priority for weeks. But after dozens of complaints from peers, the executive team decided the designer had to go. I failed my team by not rejecting someone who lacked clear skills in the interview process. I failed everyone at the company with that one decision because projects fell behind and team morale eroded." End quote. It's a reminder that putting someone we believe can learn into a role where they are not a fit can be a disaster, even with dedicated coaching. This highly qualified expert was almost desperate to not let this person fail, but still couldn't coach a designer up to an adequate level of design proficiency. Cost-benefit analysis. If you are considering diluting CX, you should do a cost-benefit analysis of training and oversight versus hiring qualified people, as well as the potential cost of poor quality. For example, I saw a job for a UX research coach asking for at least 7 years of research experience and 3 years as a teacher and instructional designer. Let's imagine they are paid $130,000 US and will coach 20 non-UX workers who will allocate 10% of their time to UX research. If the people we train make $95,000 per year, $190,000 of their annual salaries goes to them learning and doing CX work. Let's imagine that delays, mistakes, lost revenue, and having to fix PSE later, thanks to flawed CX work our non-CX staff did, only costs this company $200,000 in a year. It's possibly way more when you consider what an agile team of 6 engineers is paid for sprints of work leading to a project that partially or wholly fails. There are also costs associated with the work the non-CX role isn't getting done in their own domain due to splitting their time with CX tasks. Our democratization with a dedicated trainer adventure conservatively costs $520,000 annually. The alternative to this program is to spend $520,000 on 1 lead researcher for $130,000, 1 senior researcher for $110,000, and 4 juniors at $70,000 each. Note that by the time you hear this book, these might not be market salaries. Make sure you are paying appropriate current salaries. We can have 20 people trying to quickly learn and then part-time guess at specialized work, or we can have 6 qualified staff hitting the ground running and working efficiently. We can have 20 people spending a few hours a week here and there on CX, or we can hire 6 dedicated full-time specialists. Looking at this another way, imagine that you offered CX leadership a budget of $520,000. They would want to hire as many qualified CX staff as possible with that money. It's unlikely that they would want that budget allocated to the salaries of product managers, developers, and others trying their hands at some part-time CX work. Looking at costs, benefits, and possible consequences, the disadvantages of democratization outweigh the "but we will get more work done" advantages. Giving non-CX teammates specialized CX work is later in the book. We'll look at the optimal team structure, including hiring until there are no CX bottlenecks. What about inclusion? A common technique to convince CX and UX practitioners that they need to democratize or dilute is to tell them that excluding non-CX roles from CX tasks works against workplace inclusion. The definition of inclusion in the workplace is weblink cxcc.to/A144. Quote, "Inclusion is the practice of providing everyone with equal access to opportunities and resources. Inclusion efforts in the workplace help to give traditionally marginalized groups, like those based on gender, race, or disabilities, a means for them to feel equal in the workplace. Inclusive actions, like creating employee resource groups or hosting information sessions, make the workplace a safer, more respectful environment for all employees." End quote. Standard definitions of inclusion from HR and DEI professionals and organizations center around feelings of belonging and workplace support. Nothing in these definitions suggests or requires that people try to do each other's jobs. Are we demanding this inclusion in other roles? Are we telling engineering that they are not inclusive if they don't allow non-engineers to do coding? If we care about inclusion, then we must ask, is the workplace a more respectful environment when we tell specialized employees that their specialty essentially doesn't exist and unqualified people can do their work? If we believe that the qualified CX professionals we chose to hire are experts, then we should listen when they warn against democratization, refuse to democratize, or quit due to forced democratization. For those imagining that I'm being dramatic or hyperbolic, I worked at a Fortune 200 that brought in a new VP of UX. This person immediately made decisions and announcements that chipped away at respect for UX work. One announcement was that product managers would be allowed to do usability testing after 1 hour of training. Within what felt like weeks, all 4 of our researchers, who had master's degrees and impressive experience, quit, and so did their manager. Within months, our department lost most of its 40 designers. It was a UXodus. CX and UX sometimes allow democratization because they have been bullied into it by being told they're not inclusive or empathetic if they don't let others share their work. Please don't take that as an approval of the approach. Take it as people worn down, bullied, gaslit, or feeling like they can't say no. But famous authors say non-CX or UX roles should do CX or UX work. Authors and trainers from product management and agile are increasingly pushing the idea that product managers or engineers should be doing CX or UX research or design. Responding point for point, I wrote a lengthy article, Should Product Managers Do User Experience Research or Design? Web link cxcc.to/A130. It says product managers, but it could be any role. The article focuses on research work, but it could be any CX task. Some key points from my article include: 1. Declaring that product managers need CX or UX skills or to do CX or UX work to have empathy, understand CX or UX work, fill in where needed, or have first-hand knowledge of customers is a slippery slope. Will PMs demand to write code, run QA tests, build marketing campaigns, otherwise they don't have empathy or first-hand knowledge? Nobody should threaten that if product managers don't do CX or UX work, they won't have empathy. Everybody should be capable of customer centricity without treading into other domains' work territories. If we're worried about PMs having empathy, where is the empathy for their CX coworkers, who nearly never want product managers doing CX work? Are we walking in CX's shoes? If PMs want to build empathy, why aren't they watching every live or pre-recorded research session CX conducts? They should make time for that as a top priority. 2. The best vantage point for first-hand knowledge of customers is from the research observer's seat. Lower-skilled moderators and interviewers make many mistakes in their questions and interviewing style. They are sometimes more focused on what they are asking and taking notes than being in the moment with what the participant is saying and doing. Being an observer allows teammates to be entirely in the moment and focused on the details of participants' experiences. PMs work from second-hand knowledge constantly and without complaint. They get data and analytics they didn't run themselves. They get information from support teams without working in the call center. 3. We shouldn't claim that customers are hurt when we don't democratize or customers are hurt when we fight over democratization without being able to substantiate that. Are customers aware of our internal staffing, processes, and problems? Did we research to learn what hurts customers? Voice of the customer data reminds us that we have many customers who are experiencing pain that we caused. If we care about what hurts customers, then there are many fixes and improvements we owe them. 4. Product managers don't have to think like designers, whatever that means, to be better at solving customers' problems. Product managers must ensure that CX has been given time, budget, and headcount for the research that will help us understand customers' problems. If that hasn't happened, our solutions are probably guesses, whether or not we are thinking like a designer. You don't need CX skills or to do CX work to use critical thinking, challenge the status quo, keep asking questions, and focus on user needs. 5. The more people try to tie product management work to CX research or design, the more the tech community might question the need for a product manager role. If our CX roles could easily pick up product management tasks, and our engineers were truly self-managing teams, what would a PM's job be? This is discussed further in a later chapter. I have seen the argument, if product managers are responsible for product strategy and direction, and research informs and guides those, then product managers must do research. This syllogism could easily be turned around. If CX and UX researchers do research, and research informs and guides product strategy and direction, then CX and UX researchers should be responsible for the product strategy and direction. It shouldn't take gaslighting, bullying, name-calling, and flawed arguments to make people democratize CX, product management, QA, or any other role or task. This is business. If we have a bottleneck and a need to hire qualified people instead of hoping any warm body can do world-class specialized work. There are already companies on the other side of the role dilution experiments. Articles from these points of view can be harder to find since who wants to publicly admit that they failed? But one such article is Undemocratizing User Research. Web link cxcc.to/A142. Some companies saw the quality of their research work go down to an unacceptably low standard. Some companies lost their qualified researchers when the company appeared to no longer value their specialty or skills. Can you imagine 3 or 6 interviews to prove your abilities and then working in an environment where anybody can do your job? When the author of the Undemocratizing article and others with similar experiences push against democratization, are they listened to? Did we defer to an expert's knowledge, experience, and perspective? Or are they told they're old-fashioned, being negative, or not inclusive? But I found a pro-democratization UX expert. Read enough social posts and articles, and you'll eventually find every angle of every stance hailed as the one true way. Prominent UX voices, some experts and some not, who are pro-dilution tend to provide one or more of the following arguments. 1. Anyone can cook. You don't have to be a professional chef to cook, so we can let anybody do UCD tasks. In addition to being a logical leap, it doesn't consider PSE quality and outcomes. Anyone can prepare food, but not everybody will prepare a tasty or healthy meal. Not every meal would pass a health inspection. Anyone can give you a haircut, but you might not be glad they did. Anyone can teach children, give medical advice, or design a parachute. Customer satisfaction and loyalty, and our company's growth, depend on us correctly strategizing goals and executing initiatives. This isn't analogous to cooking. If non-researchers want to try researching for personal projects, they are welcome to try home cooking research. But while we are a business that needs to make and save money, convert and retain customers, and grow the public's trust for us, we must maintain high standards for our work and its outcomes. 2. Those against democratization are gatekeepers, elitist, want silos, create bottlenecks, and want to block others from having research insights. More examples of bullying and gaslighting. We already had the bottleneck. We made an informed decision to not allocate budget or headcount. We could have fixed the bottleneck and we didn't. If a lack of democratization causes CX bottlenecks, should we solve engineering or product management bottlenecks with the same style of democratization and dilution? Every domain in our company prefers to close the gate. If an engineer doesn't want to train marketers to write code, the engineer could be called a gatekeeper, but they are protecting and preserving their specialization. Nearly nobody would prefer to be siloed. Nearly everybody wants to share insights and customer intelligence, but we don't have to dilute CX's work to accomplish that. 3. If you have a clear, relevant question, you can do research. We will need higher standards than that. Clear and relevant questions are a starting point. What do we need to learn? But having these questions doesn't imply that research will be planned, executed, or analyzed well. 4. Design and research are methods we can teach everybody. UX can then influence everybody's decisions. How does the understaffed, bottleneck-causing domain have time to train or oversee others? Will it be okay if they are doing less work because we shifted them to being trainers or coaches? Does that improve or relieve the bottleneck? UX is often a misunderstood domain without a seat at the table or an equal voice. It's almost strange to hear a declaration that UX can influence teammates' decisions. If that were happening now, we would be more customer-centric than we are. End of list. Delta CX Governance Model. Pro-democratization views rarely come with a how to successfully democratize guidebook, a set of standards, or a governance model. This leaves the impression that anybody can do any role's work, and monitoring such an experiment is optional. Like any transformation, change, or experiment, governance, monitoring, and assessments are required. If you want to democratize or dilute CX work, then you must set up proper governance. How are we doing this? How are we checking where this is succeeding or failing? And who are we holding accountable for what? The same would be valid for democratizing product management, marketing, QA testing, or any other work. Note that you do not have to start your democratization experiment with every team and project. You can choose 1 or 2 projects and experiment more carefully. How do we make sure we're not slipping from dilution to delusion? Whether you have already started this experiment or it's something being considered for the future, here are some things you will need to answer, document, and monitor, with CX research as our example. 1. Executive support and an enforcement mechanism are necessary components. Have we identified the execs or leaders sponsoring this experiment? How will we compel compliance with this model when people might want to break the rules? 2. Root causes and problem statement. What problem are we solving? What do we know about that problem? What's causing the problem? What solutions have we considered? Have we analyzed pros and cons of various solutions? Why are we diluting CX? Is dilution the best solution? For example, if we are diluting CX because product managers would like to do UX tasks, is that a good enough reason? And are we allowing similar experiments in other domains? If we are diluting CX because CX is a bottleneck and we're willing to burn partial non-CX salaries to get the work done, wouldn't hiring CX professionals make more sense? 3. Success criteria. Before embarking on the democratization experiment, we must establish success criteria to know when it's succeeding or failing. Failure signals changing or ending the experiment. Our success criteria can't be any variation of, we did a thing and it got done. Having more people do research tasks might lead to more research tasks being done, but at what quality and cost? Our goal should be outstanding research that brings us closer to customer centricity and high-quality evidence that will be used in strategies and decisions, not just any research. The success criteria should be tied to quality and customer experience outcomes. It should use measurable metrics, not opinions or emotions. People are enjoying doing research. is not a success criterion. 4. Accountability for small or large failures. If there are no consequences for the people who drove this initiative, then there is no incentive to do better and no reason to reduce, change, or stop a failing program. We said we would hold people responsible or accountable, but what does that look like? Will we block that decision maker from leading an experiment in the future? Do we reduce their available budget? How about a performance improvement plan and coaching? Could they be demoted? I have seen companies demote managers and leaders. Don't exclude it as a possibility. 5. Training. Figure 29. Image of Bloom's taxonomy from vanderbilt.edu. Explained below. Consider Bloom's taxonomy, a pedagogical framework visualized as a pyramid. In many cases, democratization assumes that non-CX staff will jump right in at the highest level, which is the ability to produce new or original work. Does that non-CX worker recall facts and basic concepts about CX, the lowest level in this model? Can they explain CX ideas or concepts, the second level, or use CX knowledge in new situations, the third level? We cannot expect quality work based on the application of extensive knowledge if we are not providing that knowledge and taking people through these pedagogical stages. Most companies experimenting with democratization expect a research expert to provide training. Given that the researcher's full-time job is doing mission-critical research tasks, we must create appropriate expectations for the length, breadth, and depth of training. Some researchers are great teachers, some are not. Have we checked which of our researchers is also great with training and pedagogy? Let's not also dilute education. CX research is highly specialized and, on average, takes people years to be good at. We might see low-quality results through no fault of the trainer, especially since there may not have been a selection process with standards for who will be trying CX work. Speaking of which, is there a selection or screening process for non-CX individuals? Can anybody be trained? Or do we declare some people not a match to CX work? Some students will never be good at research tasks, no matter how much training they get. There will be people who just don't get it. How much training will there be? What types of training? Will learners have time to practice on non-urgent projects? When does our researcher have time to shift into instructional designer mode and create a training program? Are we sending our non-researchers to an outside training course or bringing in a corporate trainer? How did we investigate and vet the quality of that course or that trainer? Will you utilize formative and summative assessments of the students and the trainer to measure process and effectiveness? 6. Priorities. Have we codified which work should go to the professional researchers and which work should go to the non-researchers? How will we prioritize the incoming work and match work to practitioners? What are the priorities for the people being asked to train others? Which is more important, the work they currently have on their plate or the training and work reviews for those who are learning? Do not say they can do both. People with packed schedules need clear priorities. What are the priorities for the people trying to learn or do research tasks? Which is more important, the work they currently have on their plate or the training and research work? Do not say they can do both. 7. Process. A good research process includes planning, recruiting participants, executing the sessions, analyzing the data, synthesizing findings, and arriving at actionable insights. Will non-researchers be required to execute a correct research process? If not, why not? 8. Work and quality. Will non-researchers doing research tasks be required to meet ISO or other standards we have documented? If not, why not? If we find that someone's work doesn't meet our quality standards, what do we do about that? Do we ban them from future research? Do we invest more time and money into trying to train them further? Do we include the bad research or deliver it to a client? Do we scrap the research and pretend it never happened? Some well-paid trainers say that research work done by non-researchers does not need to be checked. We can let it go and assume it's good enough. If we are not checking this work, that should be documented as high risk. All work that is in progress and completed should be documented and archived. This includes documentation of every step of our research process. We should archive our session recordings, research plans, and artifacts relating to how this data was analyzed. 9. Costs of time and salaries. Calculate the time and salary a researcher spends training, overseeing, coaching, reviewing work, correcting work, etc. Calculate the time and salary a non-researcher spends learning and doing research. Did work have to be redone by someone with higher skill? That took time and salary. 10. Costs of poor quality. Are we monitoring the projects using non-researchers for research? Have we checked if research quality set a later stage of the project up for mistakes or failures? For example, was usability testing highly flawed, invalid, or didn't deliver the information designers needed to improve their designs? Did something that research told us turn out to not be accurate? Did we release something to the public or deliver it to a client, but it's partially or wholly failing? What did that cost us in reputation, stock price, customer trust, customer support utilization, negative word of mouth, or customers downgrading or leaving? Did we make a big enough mistake where we had to roll back a software release, undo a price increase, or negate something we delivered to the public? What are the costs of that mistake and the efforts to fix or undo it? 11. Costs of attrition and worker dissatisfaction. Did anybody quit our company partially or wholly due to democratization? It would be a serious loss if that knowledge and capability walked out the door. Researchers might not want to stay in a workplace where anybody can do their job regardless of proficiency. Non-researchers might not like more tasks dumped on them, especially if they already have no spare time. Your workers might stay, but are they happy? If you opened a job in their domain, would they recommend that their friends work here? Are they telling their network that this is a great place to work? End of list. We must monitor all of these, and with some effort, we could calculate the time and money spent on most, if not all of these. We should be able to quantify what this experiment costs and compare that to the salaries that we could have paid professionals to do this work. Thanks to Dr. Ari Zelmanow, Zelmanow, for his collaboration on this governance model.